After the first pass interference call against Bobby Butler, the Saints scored first on a 1-yard plunge. Wayne Wilson takes it on through. Morton Anderson's point after was good, and it was 7-0 in favor of the New Orleans Saints. Then the Falcons got on the board. Nick Luckhurst bangs through a 40-yard field goal, and that cut the New Orleans advantage to a 7-3 score. The Atlanta deficit was 4. And then late in the second quarter, just before the end of the first half, Kenny Stabler, after the second pass interference call, goes to the right side. Here's the call on Bobby Butler working against Lindsey Scott. You see he got the left hand and then the right hand on Scott. Flag was thrown at the 11. So the Saints and Kenny Stabler went to work. Stabler 19 of 27, 206 yards in the first half, and this touchdown to the left side as he finds Kenny Duckett, the rookie out of Wake Forest, and that put the Saints ahead by a score of 14-3, and that's where we are right now at the half.
As you look at Kenny Stabler along the sidelines having a great afternoon, a fun afternoon. As we look at the halftime stats, you see the Saints, it's all total yards, 248 total yards to 110 for the Falcons. Rushing fairly even. It's the passing game that's a difference. Stabler's the difference. 206 yards to only 66 for Bartkowski and company. Time of possession about a 5-minute difference. Turnovers not that significant. So it's really Kenny Stabler first half throwing the ball. 3 wide receivers, no tight end.
Not too bad for a 37-year-old picked up off the scrap heap by Bum Phillips, who had confidence in Kenny Stabler. Bum even told us at practice the other day he's surprised the rejuvenated Ken Stabler, the enthusiasm that he showed. He said Stabler is going to be here in the offseason, work out with weights and work out with the Saints' young receivers. Reggie Brown fields at the 7. Breaks it through across the 25. 1st and 10 for the Falcons on the short end by 11, and they'll start from their own 28-yard line.
Now, can the Falcons come back? You bet they can. Anybody who has a Steve Bartkowski at quarterback, you remember Steve Bartkowski, the Mad Bomber, the guy that would throw 31 touchdowns in 1980, 30 in 81. This man can put the ball up and bring a team back in a hurry. He's been a bit bridled with the ball control offense of late. Can't do that anymore.
Bartkowski came in 152 completions, 241 attempts, 1,743 yards. And 8 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. They keep it on the ground, though, across the 35-yard line. That's Lynn Kane, the 4-year running back out of USC. He opens up each offensive series, and then, of course, we will see number 42, Gerald Riggs, who the Falcon people think will be even better than Lynn Kane.
Look at Jackson battling with Junior Miller. They're going to do it all day long. Ricky Jackson, the second man out of Pittsburgh. You don't hear much about him because in college, it was all you green. Here, he says the team isn't winning, so you don't hear about me.
Jackson to the bottom of your screen, Jenkins to the top. Falcons set it down on 2nd and 3. Lynn Kane got that on his own, was chopped behind the line of scrimmage at about the 35 and knifed his way forward and got it back to the 36-yard line. Jim Kovach in on the hit, along with Jim Wilkes, a second-year right end from San Diego State.
You know, number 21, Lynn Kane, in 1980 had 915 yards rushing. You know, people tend to talk about William Andrews, Gerald Riggs, but Lynn Kane is a fine back in his own respect. And Lehman Bennett starts him because he has contributed and he can contribute, even though Gerald Riggs is the halfback of the future for the Atlanta Falcons.
Jenkins to the left side. Jackson moves into the slot. That's Jackson in motion to the top of your screen. Bartkowski over the middle in the grasp of Junior Miller. He's got the first down at the 40-yard line, and a late flag is thrown from way across the way.
I thought that flag should have come about 3 minutes earlier. Rob Nairn, number 55, was all over Junior Miller, all over his back. We'll see what the referees call it.
Dick Jorgensen, the referee, will confer with Steve Bartkowski. Junior Miller picked up enough for the first down.
Interference, number 56. Defense, decline, first down.
They called it on Dennis Winston, not Rob Nairn. Both of them were hanging all over Junior Miller, number 80, but they called it on Winston. You remember Winston at Pittsburgh.
Traded from the Steelers this year out of Arkansas, 6-year veteran, and brings some defensive maturity to a young New Orleans. Jenkins and Jackson wide left and right. I formation now. Bartkowski. The throw on first down. Corner out, got it. First down for the Falcons down at the 40-yard line. Floyd Hodge out of Utah.
They were playing an elastic zone. They were so deep. Russell Gary, the safety, was so deep that he just had so much room. Floyd Hodge did. It was an easy throw on the outside. Plenty of room in front. Floyd Hodge makes the reception. First down.
And you saw the strength in the arm of Steve Bartkowski. 35 yards from the left side of the field over across to the right side, and he threw that ball on a rope. William Andrews chopped down the swarming Saints defense. Maybe got it back to the line of scrimmage. 2nd down and 10. Jim Kobach, 4th year out of Kentucky, on the hit. Shows you the patience and the confidence that Lehman Bennett has in his football team. Behind by 11. Not panicking. Putting together a sustained drive.
He has confidence. William Andrews only has 34 yards and 8 rushes. Last week, Green Bay shut him down with only 41 yards rushing, but he had 11 receptions for 77 yards. They can move the ball. They need a touchdown on this drive.
Jenkins and Jackson wide left and right. Draw play to William Andrews, who barrels his way up near the 35-yard line. This telecast presented by authority of the National Football League. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the New Orleans Saints and the National Football League is prohibited. You know, John, talking about that game against the Green Bay Packers, Falcons also their own worst enemy. 16 penalties for 153 yards. And really 3 penalties here have led to 14 New Orleans Saints points. 2 pass interference calls against Bobby Butler and 1 roughing the passer call on Don Smith. 3rd and 6. Bartkowski got it. 1st down. At the 25, Alfred Jenkins, 7th year out of Morris Brown. And again, the strength of Steve Bartkowski. When he gets warmed up, he can be one of the hottest passers in the National Football League.
He sure can. He shows a strong arm here. Good play. Almost by the defensive back. Jenkins goes down. They say there was contact, so he can't get back up and run with the ball.
Well, there was. You saw the left hand of Dave Wimmer, and that's a smart play because he knew he was sliding on by. If he doesn't make contact, Jenkins can get up and run. It's a touchdown.
Exactly right.
From the 25 of the New Orleans Saints, Stacey Bailey to the left side. The book on Bartkowski. Alfred Jackson to the right side. William Andrews tries to cut it back against the grain, fights his way near the 27. Dennis Dirt Winston, 228-pound linebacker out of Arkansas, made the tackle.
And you look at number 56 in white, and you know that this is a man also, William Andrews, walking back. He was voted the defensive MVP by the Saints team. Of course, we told you earlier about Stabler being the offensive MVP. And at Pittsburgh, you know, Winston had all those other linebackers, Lambert, Hearn, Ham to deal with. Here he's found a home, and he's playing well for the Saints.
Lynn Kane to the top of the screen as a flanker. Slot formation to the left side, Jackson and Jenkins. Bartkowski looks at 2nd down and 7. Over the middle, incomplete, and a penalty flag at the 12-yard line away from the ball. Russell Gary out of Nebraska had it in his grasp, but away from the ball. It'll be a holding call, I believe, against the New Orleans Saints.
Bartkowski didn't read the adjustment by the receiver. One or the other went the wrong way. He throws it right to Russell Gary. And like all good defensive backs, he has cement hands and doesn't hold on to it.
Holding number 25, defense, 1st down.
Johnny Poe in his 2nd year out of Missouri, a 6th-round draft pick. He was the man trying to hold up Alfred Jenkins, who was running out of the slot.
And Poe is the man that had that rough week against Washington last week. Charlie Brown, 2 touchdowns, one a controversial play where he was knocked out of bounds.
Lynn Kane to the top of the screen once again. Slot formation, Jenkins and Jackson to the bottom. 1st and 10 for the Falcons. They trail by 11 from the 17 of New Orleans. Draw play, William Andrews bowls his way down to the 10-yard line. Just keeps those legs churning, and Dennis Winston finally grabbed him from behind.
It gives you an idea of the quickness and speed of William Andrews. He cut by Ricky Jackson. Take a look at this. He cuts to his right, gets the handoff from Bartkowski, and makes a cut that a great back can make right here. And you see the linebacker 57 Jackson go running by him, and that's a good tackler he ran by. Gets the extra yardage on his own.
Just outside the 10-yard line, 9:25 left to go in the 3rd quarter. 1st and 10 for the Falcons. They can get a 1st down. William Andrews, Ricky Jackson.
Ricky Jackson said, "You got away from me on the last play. I'm going to get you this time." William Andrews trying to do some dancing. The pursuit of the Saints brought him down.
Ricky Jackson is going to be a great linebacker. What effect would a Dennis Winston coming over from the Steelers? Here's Bum Phillips, who played against the Steelers in those AFC championship games, goes out and when Winston became available, gets a quality linebacker like that to help with his young linebacking core.
It can only have a stabilizing effect on a young defensive team like the Saints.
Flood formation to the right side. Junior Miller in motion to the bottom of your screen. Almost intercepted, intended for the tight end Junior Miller at the 6-yard line. Bill Hurley out of Syracuse, another free agent, and that's the second one the Saints almost came up with. And a penalty flag, and this one apparently against Atlanta.
Holding number 66, offense decline. 4th down.
Someone ought to get some stickum. As you see, the penalty was on Warren Bryant, 6th-year man out of Kentucky for the Falcons. Bill Hurley drops another one. Gary dropped one right before that. I know stickum's outlawed in the NFL, but these guys certainly need it.
I'm not sure Lester Hayes has heard that yet.
Boy, Bolitnikoff did the same kind of thing. He used to have it all over himself. You'd cover him, and you'd be sticking together with all the stickum coming off his uniform.
Certainly well within Nick Luckhurst's range. They'll put it down at the 19. This will be a 29-yard field goal attempt for Mick. His 40-yard field goal, the only points the Falcons have. And he's added one from 29. So the Saints will maintain their lead. The deficit for the Falcons cut down to 8 points. We've got 8:23 left to go in the third quarter. The Saints, who've lost 9 of 10 to the Falcons, looking to rebound here at the Superdome.
Audi, BMW, Mercedes, the old world's finest sports sedans. Now, the American alternative. The new front-wheel drive Dodge 600 ES. 50 automotive engineers compared it to a Mercedes 300D. They preferred Dodge 38-12 for overall driving superiority. With great mileage and a 5-year or 50,000-mile protection plan, Dodge 600 ES is the affordable American alternative.
America's driving machine.
When a businessman is waking up in, say, Los Angeles, his main office in New York is already well into its day. And very often there's information the main office would like men such as this to have the moment they come in. Well, now, through a modern computer innovation called telemail, they can send them that information and have them punch it right up the minute they arrive.
Gee.
No, GTE.
There you see the Atlanta scoring drive. They've got 2 field goals in this football game, one in the first half, one in the second half. Mick Luckhurst will kick off. 89, Andre Thompson. 84, Rich Mauty. For the New Orleans Saints are back deep. Andre Thompson will take it 5 yards deep. And down it there, it'll be a touchback, and the Saints will start 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line. The veteran Kenny Stabler brings them out. You look at Mick Luckhurst. That's a pretty good kick from the 35, 5 yards deep.
Sure, a lot of leg. You know, you look for ebb and flow in a game, momentum. That time, Bartkowski and the Atlanta Falcons drove the field looking for a touchdown, but they only came up with 3 points, so they trail 14-6. Now, it's important that an Atlanta defense shut down Stabler and company and get the ball back so Bartkowski can go to work again.
37 years old, and there's the afternoon he's had. Kenny Stabler, Lindsey Scott, Kenny Duckett, wide receivers for the Falcons, slot, or for the Saints, slot formation to the right side. Screen pass to Wayne Wilson. Up near the 27. Jim Laughlin in there on the tackle, 3rd-year linebacker out of Ohio State. And Brad Edelman, the man who was leading the blocking out there for Wayne Wilson. He's the rookie out of Missouri, who Jerry Glanville of the Atlanta Falcons defensive coaching staff says is the best left guard to ever play pro football.
I think it has to do with the job that he did on Randy White from Dallas a few weeks ago. White didn't get near the quarterback, was totally neutralized, so much so they started fighting at the end of the game. That's number 63, Brad Edelman, the left guard. You see him in your picture next to the center.
Inside handoff. First down for the New Orleans Saints. Hokie Guyjon.
Watch it. Excuse me, watch the left guard. You get him on the right hand. See him pushing back. He's got tremendous arm strength. He pushes Mike Perko back, opens up for Hokie Kaijan. A good hold.
Lewis Aubrey out of Oklahoma, 6'4", 262, a 5th-round draft pick. The man who was opening up the hole for Kaijan. Running backs now, Jack Holmes, 45, and Wayne Wilson, 30 for Ken Stabler. 1st and 10 for the Saints at their own 40. That's Jeff Groth out of Bowling Green, shy of 1st down yardage in the grasp of Tom Pridemore.
Here's a guy that Jeff Groth, number 86, is a guy that Stabler calls a fast Fred Biletnikoff. Watch him here, the bottom of your screen, fighting off, makes a good catch because Johnson's coming into pretty good lick on him, fights it off and gets some extra yardage. Jeff Groth, number 86, much like a Howard Twilley or a Jimmy Cephalo type from Miami, as you look at Bum Phillips along the sidelines.
Came into the game, 26 catches, 320 yards, and 1 touchdown. Stabler sets the Saints down. He needs 2. Jack Holmes barrels over the midfield stripe and will get the 1st down into Falcon territory. There are the stats on Ken Stabler, but how about the play call? The veteran, Kenny Stabler, mixing up the short passes, the medium passes, and the running of Wilson, Kaijan, Jack Holmes. Haven't really seen, with the exception of 1 or 2 long passes, Stabler air it out.
You get the feeling that Stabler has a game plan that he feels comfortable with throwing the ball. If he had George Rogers, it would be a different Saints offense.
I think Kenny Stabler likes this game plan even without George Rogers. He'd much rather have Rogers in there, but he likes to throw it. And talking about it, airing it out, Lindsey Scott, it's intercepted by the Falcons at the 11-yard line. Bobby Butler, victimized twice on the pass interference call, comes up with the interception.
Poetic justice. As you look at a little scuffle along the sidelines, Lindsey Scott is there with a whole bunch of Falcons.
That wasn't a little scuffle. He threw the punch.
Bobby Butler keeping the ball. Watch this. Bobby Butler, as you mentioned, a couple of penalties. Lindsey Scott, obviously the game plan. Send Scott long on Butler. This time Butler, great position inside, goes up, makes the interception. And the Saints lead 14-6 here at the Superdome. We'll be back.
No second shots, Wallace! No second shots!
I'm used to him yelling.
Wallace, you gotta keep him out of there!
But not at me.
Punch him out! Punch him out!
The best never comes easy. That's why there's nothing else like it. Budweiser Light.
Bring out your best. Bring out your best. Budweiser Light. Bring out your best. Budweiser Light.
The best.
Nice game.
You found it in yourself, and now you've found it in the beer you drink.
Budweiser Light.
The top 8 teams in the NFC, the top in the AFC. We'll tee it up in the Super Bowl tournament. It all starts next week. In the NFC, the Redskins, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Vikings, and Tampa Bay are in. And, of course, still battling the Saints and the Lions. Over in the AFC, the Raiders, Bengals, Dolphins, Jets, Chargers, Steelers, Cleveland, and New England are in. Lynn Kane sweeping right. Picks up 5, brings up 2nd down and 5 for the Falcons. They trail by 8 with 5:15 left to go in the 3rd quarter.
You know, Jim, it's interesting. 7 teams fighting for 2 playoff spots going into today's game in the NFC. I can't remember a season where so many games, final games, meant so much to so many teams. Really a credit to the NFL and the scheduling after a tough strike and a lot of disruption in the season.
Steve Bartkowski. 2nd down and 5. First down for the Falcons. Alfred Jackson got free over on the left side out of Texas.
This is a nice throw by Bartkowski over the up man Jackson. Good fake so he doesn't suffer the bump and gets thrown off his pattern. Bartkowski just lays it in front of the deep defender, and that's Earl Jones, knocks him out of bounds.
A pickup of 29 yards. The stats on Alfred Jackson so far this afternoon. In his 5th year, a 7th-round draft pick out of back in 1978. Floyd Hodge is in. Jenkins is in from the 44 now of the Falcons. Junior Miller, the big tight end, rambles for another Falcon first down and pulls his way all the way down to the 33 of the Saints.
Boy, that reminds you of the Bartkowski of old. A good play-action fake right here to Lynn Kane, and then airs it out. A frozen rope. Junior Miller wide open, makes the catch, takes it upfield for some extra yards. That's the Bartkowski we remember from years ago. Watch it again. He chooses the right receiver inside. He's open. Obviously, number 20, Rusty got
placed his way for a pickup of 2. That'll bring up 2nd down and 8 yards to go. Jim Wilkes out of San Diego State in there in the hit. The 49ers putting away the Los Angeles Rams. Perhaps the last game as far as Ray Malavasi and most of his coaching staff concerned in Los Angeles. And that game, of course, affects New Orleans because the Saints can only get into the playoffs if they beat Atlanta and if Detroit and San Francisco both lose. Look what the Raiders are doing at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego.
It's a little surprised when you hold the San Diego Chargers to look at this. Is that a baseball score?
5th inning. Hodge and Jenkins, the wide receivers. Kreftley remains the tight end. Down goes Bartkowski in the grasp of Whitney Paul. Seventh year out of Colorado, who came over to the New Orleans Saints in a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs this year. So you can see the rebuilding job that Bum Phillips is doing. This man, Whitney Paul, came over from Kansas City. Winston came over from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
He comes from the backside. Bartkowski never sees him. You know, Bum Phillips talked about him being the best cover linebacker possibly in the NFL, but you saw him blitz there. It's a 2nd sack. First on Bartkowski, -9 yards.
Hodge and Jenkins, the wide receivers. Slot formation to the left side. Saints show a blitz. 3rd and 18. And Bartkowski pulled up short and apparently heard a whistle. Delay of game against Atlanta. Two years ago, those fans that you were looking at in the stands were wearing bags on their heads. They called their team the Aints.
Delay, offense, still 3rd down.
But Bum Phillips, since he came in here, rebuilding around George Rogers, picking up players like Dennis Winston and Whitney Paul with a good draft over on the left side. Edelman rebuilding. 38 of the 49 players on the New Orleans Saints roster weren't here 2 years ago when those fans were wearing bags on their head. You saw the update on that other score. William Andrews will not pick up the first down. And I believe they're way out of Mick Luckhurst's field goal range. Picks up 9, so it'll bring up 4th and 14. A 28-yard field goal by Eddie Murray at Detroit at the Silverdome. 7:58 left to go in the 3rd quarter. So the Lions lead the Green Bay Packers 20-14. Remember now, as far as the Saints are concerned, their first priority to beat Atlanta. If that happens, they can still qualify for the playoffs only if Detroit and San Francisco both lose. Right now the Lions are winning by 6, and the 49ers are up big over the Los Angeles Rams.
On the other side of that coin, of course, the home field advantage. The Falcons already in the playoffs. They beat the Saints today. They will have that home field advantage because St. Louis lost to the Redskins earlier.
28-0. Redskins on top as they solidify best record in the NFC. They go to 8-1, and they'll have home field as far as they can go. The Cowboys are 6-2, and Dallas will play up at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis tomorrow night. Falcons, confused on the specialty teams, will take another delay of game penalty and back them up 5 yards further for George Roberts, who has punted twice today for a 47.5-yard average.
You know, sometimes a team will take an extra 5 yards to give him a little more room to punt, maybe kick out of bounds, or maybe get it inside the 20.
Time left in the third quarter. The Redskins are 8-1. Cowboys are 6-2 going into tomorrow night's game against the Vikings. Green Bay 5-2 right now. They're losing by a field goal. Atlanta 5-3 coming in.
Delay. Offense. Still 4th down.
Cardinals are 5-4 now after losing at Washington. The Vikings are 4-4. Tampa Bay by beating the Bears in an overtime field goal. 33 yards by Bill Capice ups their record to 5-4. So one playoff spot left to go. George Roberts bangs it for the near sideline. Last time he put it out of bounds at the 5, and this time it'll be killed or not. The volleyball drill goes into the end zone. It'll be a touchback, and the Saints get a break.
Almost a great play by number 89, Willie Curran. He almost bats it back, the rookie from UCLA, but he doesn't. So it's New Orleans leading Atlanta 14-6. Time running out in the third quarter. We'll be back at the Superdome in a moment.
End of shift, the new day's dawning. Partner's late, but the coffee's warming. Here's the way you share your morning. Maxwell House and you get that good, the last drop feeling. With Maxwell House, only Maxwell House gives you good to the last drop feeling. Maxwell House.
Why do 100,000-mile flyers choose United?
Many of the answers are here on United's remarkable new 767. Over 100 computers help monitor systems, from air conditioning to weather over the route ahead. There's more overhead storage. Twin aisles and roomier coach seats make it more comfortable. As a director of United, I think the 767 is good business. As a business flyer, you'll think so too.
People who fly for a living fly United's friendly skies.
Wednesday, it's Susan St. James' anniversary, but which one is the lucky guy?
I think I want Red Butler.
I Take These Men, a world premiere Wednesday.
There was a sign on the message board here at the Silverdome a couple of seconds ago that said the New Orleans Saints salutes Pro Bowler George Rogers. No telling how good, with Kenny Stabler on this team from training camp on, with a healthy George Rogers, a rebuilding defense. No telling how good this team will be next year when they get some momentum. Stabler not going into his shell, finds Wayne Wilson again out of the backfield and picks up 8 yards. 2nd down and 2. Jim Laughlin and Al Richardson in there in the tackle, and not going away from their game plan at all with 1:25 left to go in the third quarter.
You know, you talk about Wayne Wilson, number 30, free agent here with New Orleans. Guess who he was originally drafted by? You guessed it, it's Bum Phillips. Back in 1979 when he was with Houston, he was a 12th round draft choice. Somehow Bum has a way of recycling players that he likes.
Wilson with 11 receptions for 89 yards. This time we'll keep it on the ground. Free agent out of Shepherd in his 4th year, 6'3", 208. Pulls his way for a first down. Clydemore on the tackle for the Atlanta Falcons.
You know, Jim, when we were talking to Bum the other day, we were talking about Wes Chandler and Bum's philosophy, and he said he would get rid of a player who didn't fit in with the family feeling that he wants on the Saints. And that kind of, he picks up people like Wayne Wilson, like a Stabler. He starts to build by getting a Leon Gray to back up, a Kelvin Clark. He brings the team together, and that's how Bum Phillips wins.
And he believes very strongly in the team unity. The Saints will have a lot of team functions with the players' wives. They'll have barbecues. They'll have little guitar picking sessions and little hootenanny. Wayne Wilson over the middle. Good block by Stan Brock, 3rd-year right tackle out of Colorado. 1st-round draft pick back in 1980.
Remember, he talked about training camp where he brought in 8 or 9 country western singers to have a little beer, have a little jam session, to relax the Saints and bring them together. I think that's part of winning.
Time expiring in the third quarter. Falcons have had a field goal in the first half, a field goal in the second half. New Orleans with 2 first-half touchdowns. 15 minutes left to go in regulation. The Saints, who've lost 9 out of 10 to the Falcons, on the rebound here at the Silverdome.
Raise your hand. You got it. Raise your hand. You know it. You feel confident, secure. Raise your hand. You feel dry now. Raise your hand. You know why now. Raise your hand if you're sure.
You've got it. That sure, secure, confident feeling. Because each Sure gives you enough protection to help feel dry all day.
Confident, confident, dry and secure. Raise your hand if you're sure. It's so easy to catch someone's eye, and so easy to lose it. It's so easy to get their attention, and so easy to lose it.
Why let the itch of dandruff be what they notice when it's so easy to control with Head & Shoulders? Head & Shoulders leaves your hair soft, shiny, captivatingly clean. Lose that itch and keep their attention with Head & Shoulders.
It's so easy.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Toyota, who reminds you that it's a good feeling to buckle up for safety. And by Gillette Atra Razor, the twin blade razor that pivots for a close, comfortable shave.
Jim Kelly, John Dockery back with you. I, of course, said Silverdome as we went away. I meant Superdome. You got the Superdome, the Silverdome, the Astrodome, the Metrodome, and the Kingdome in Seattle, right?
As the NFL goes indoors.
Second down and 5 for the Saints. They lead it by 8. Wayne Wilson, power sweep to the left side. Close to first down yardage. They needed to get it down to about the 43-yard line. Glazebrook came up and made the hit. Falcons with just 81 yards rushing. The Saints with 69. After 3 quarters of play. But look at this difference in passing. For the Falcons, 146 yards. For New Orleans, 230.
Kenny Stabler on fire, having an afternoon that he talked about having. And that with an injury. Not able to throw that long. Not practicing all week long, although we did see him on Friday, and he did throw the ball well.
You see number 14, Russell Ertzleben there. He's had a relatively quiet afternoon as far as punting goes. 3rd and less than a yard for the Saints. Russell Ertzleben, also the New Orleans Saints player representative. Saints a team that stayed unified during the players' strike also. Maudie in motion. Stabler. Despite the fact they had problems with a handoff, Wayne Wilson goes up and over and picks up the first down for New Orleans. Wayne Wilson looked like he was catapulted out of a cannon there. Watch his lead block. Look at Stabler's reaction. Strong surge by the offensive line. Good lead block by Gaijan. And then it's all Wilson over the top. You saw Stabler fight to keep that ball in his control, otherwise a fumble. They already lost 1 on a missed snap earlier. 1st and 10 for the Saints. They lead by 8. 14-18 left to go. Close to first down yardage into Falcon territory. Kenny Duckett, he's got the touchdown reception. The rookie out of Wake Forest. Kenny Duckett this time faked long. Johnson, of course, not great speed. Burned a couple of times by Lofton last week. Worrying about the deep pattern. Duckett pulls it up, comes back to the ball. The result, a completion. And you mentioned Lofton. If you're wondering how things are going in that Lions-Packers game, it is still 20-14. Detroit on top. New Orleans, their first order of business, of course, to beat the Atlanta Falcons if the Saints are to have a slim chance of qualifying for the playoff. They need a Detroit and San Francisco loss in order to get in, but first they've got to beat the Falcons. Picks up that first down. Kenny Stabler, 23 of 32, 241 yards, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown. Nice throw to Kenny Duckett into the first half for that touchdown, 11 yards. Let's take a look at some updated score. In the 3rd quarter, San Francisco on top over the Los Angeles Rams by 13 points. San Diego behind by 10 to the Raiders. A battle of field goals between Denver and Seattle. And late word in from Detroit now. Green Bay has just gotten another field goal. They trail by 3, 20-17. Receiver went inside. Stabler threw the ball outside. That field goal by Stenerud from 47 yards. So the Packers have climbed to within 3.
You knew Kenny Stabler wanted something else because he pumped fake. He obviously wanted the receiver to go out and up. The receiver did not do that. He just threw it away.
Kenny Stabler out of Alabama. Played for Bear Bryant. Slot formation to the right side. Stabler looks at 2nd and 10. The delay to Wilson. Inside the 40. Joel Williams in there on the tackle. Don't forget, following this game, it all starts with 60 Minutes. A great night, a great lineup here on CBS. 60 Minutes followed by Archie Bunker's plays, Gloria, the new hit with Sally Struthers, the Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, and Trapper John M.D. It's all tonight right here on CBS. Line of scrimmage, the 39-yard line of the Falcons. Kenny Stabler calling, I think, John, a masterful game. Mixing up the short passing and the running. Saints 3 out of 6 on 3rd down conversions. Need 5 right here, and Stabler just throws this one out of bounds. Saw Bobby Butler over there. Don Smith with a lot of pressure on Stabler. And Kenny just unloaded, so we were talking about Russell Ertzleben, and apparently the Saints will punt it away. .13:20 left to go.
There's our man, Billy White Shoes Johnson. Yeah, there he is. Remember White Shoes? Took a little vacation in Canada. Came back this year. Has surprised people. Look at that. One of the tops in the NFC in punt returns with an 11.4-yard average. And they were pleasantly surprised with White Shoes Johnson. They weren't sure he could play anymore. But he's filled in as a wide receiver. Done well as a punt return man.
We mentioned Ertzleben had a pretty easy afternoon. They've got the fake punt. Touchdown. Touchdown. Bill Hurley. And look at the Saints players from the far bench.
Does that tell you something about unity, about good feelings on a team? And look at the crowd here. You'd think it was a Super Bowl. What, they're pulling out all the stops. Ertzleben throws the ball. This is Bill Hurley. Remember the great career he had at Syracuse as a quarterback? That's Jim Laughlin. He misses the tackle, and then Hurley shows some good speed cutting back. Takes it all the way in for the touchdown.
Big block you saw there thrown by 84 Rich Maudie. Saints late getting one of the specialty teams out. That's number 57 checking in Ricky Jackson. Out of the hold of Guido Merkins, Morton Anderson will try for the point after. They go 80 yards in 10 plays, 39 yards from Russell Ertzleben to Bill Hurley. Guido Merkins may have his backup quarterback job taken away. Russell Ertzleben is 1 for 1. 39-yard touchdown. The point after by Morton Anderson is good. And the New Orleans Saints go up top 21-6 over the Falcons. You take another look at Russell Ertzleben firing 39 yards to Bill Hurley.
Hurley drafted by Pittsburgh as a defensive back. Didn't play much. He's delighted to be here in New Orleans. Gets his first touchdown.
Come on along, I'll take you to the lullaby of Broadway. The hickory and ballyhoo.
The lullaby of Broadway.
And in the center of it all
is the Milford Plaza.
Stay at the Milford Plaza Hotel with cocktail dinner and breakfast for $39 per person. Discover why we are the lullaby of Broadway.
The Milford Plaza is the lullaby of all Broadway.
You can protect everything but your ego. Because they know how it hurts. And they'll go for it again.
Bring out your best. Budweiser Live. Bring out your best. Budweiser Live.
The best never comes easy. That's why there's nothing else like it.
Budweiser Light.
47,336 on their feet here at the Superdome in New Orleans. Enjoying this one. The Saints lead it by 15. 8 yards deep, and he's coming out. Reggie Brown hammered down at the 15-yard line, maybe the 16 with forward progress. Ed Simonini, former Baltimore Colt, a 26-yard kickoff return. And this Superdome was just electrified after that Saints score. We'll return to the Superdome here in New Orleans with the Saints on top over the Falcons 21-6 after this word from your local station.
Tuesday on CBS is Walt Disney's New Day. Tim Conway stars in the world's greatest athlete. African magic mixes with college sports for the world's greatest fun. Walt Disney Tuesday.
This is CBS.
The Superdome is electrified. You don't think that this is a great rivalry? The New Orleans Saints, the Atlanta Falcons, two great southern cities entered the National Football League at just about the same time. The Falcons up 1 year, down another. In the playoffs 1 year, down another. Saints struggling for a long time. Rebuilt under Bum Phillips and alive here today on top over the Falcons 21-6, trying to rebound from a 35-0 embarrassment at Fulton County Stadium earlier this year. Bartkowski will try to bring the Falcons back, and he's capable of doing it, down by 15 with almost 13 minutes left to go. Over the middle, William Andrews slithers forward, shy of first down yardage. Green Bay has scored at Detroit, a recovered fumble. Del Rogers, 24-20, the Packers on top. The 49ers are winning against the Los Angeles Rams, but the Rams are coming back. They trail by just 6. The Saints, if they beat the Falcons, can qualify for the playoffs if the Detroit Lions lose and if the San Francisco 49ers lose. So right now, the New Orleans fans rooting for a Los Angeles Rams touchdown. We've got a 15-point New Orleans Saint lead.
Toyota's been the #1 selling import truck for 5 years. A 1983 Toyota Standard Bed aims to make it 6. With the biggest standard engine in its class, a 1,400-pound payload, a better warranty than ever. And this, last year's sticker price, just $59.98. How does that feel?
Like somebody did it right.
Oh, 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 what a feeling.
How can a guy 5'9" have an unfair advantage over these guys? I use the Gillette Atra razor. They don't. It's got the advantage of a pivoting head. Atra is better than twin-blade razors that don't pivot. See? They don't always stay in my beard, but my Atra pivots to keep both blades on my beard longer. So I get a better shave. Close. Comfortable.
Get the Gillette Atra and get the Atra advantage.
Sometimes a little advantage goes a long way.
William Andrews, going off under his own power, was down for a long time, and while we were away, John said what a drastic loss that would be for the Falcons in the playoffs. We talked with Lehman Bennett. We said, at what point in the game tomorrow, when we talked to him yesterday at the hotel, would you pull a Steve Bartkowski or William Andrews?
And he said only late in the game if we were way ahead or way behind. Remember, the Falcons are in the playoffs. We are forgetting that. They also need some momentum. They haven't had it today. They're not playing that well.
Bo Robinson blocking for Gerald Riggs, chopped down at the 25-yard line, and the crowd comes alive once again.
You talk about momentum. Atlanta isn't playing a great football game. They're not playing with the emotion that Lehman Bennett hoped they would play with. But on the other side of that coin, the Saints are fired up. You saw Ricky Jackson come across. Look at the Raiders and the San Diego Chargers coming back 20-20. Ricky Jackson came across to make that tackle from the other side of the field.
Raiders are 7-1 going in. The Chargers are 6-2 going in. Remember that great game they had? The Chargers had a 24-point lead, and the Raiders came back to beat them. Bartkowski needs a first down. 11:45 left to go in this football game. Gerald Riggs will not get the first down. Sandwiched by the left defensive front of that line for the New Orleans Saints. Ricky Jackson leading the charge.
And we talked about this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde Atlanta team. I mean, for 3 weeks before last week's terrible loss, 38-7 to Green Bay, they were on fire. They beat San Francisco 17-7. They shut out these New Orleans Saints 35-0. They beat Denver 34-27. So you wonder what Atlanta's going to do in the playoffs.
Low snap, bullet-like kick. Jeff Gross will field cleanly at his 23. Fights his way back near the 35-yard line, and the Saints with a 15-point lead will start 1st and 10 from that point. 11:14 left to go in this football game. New Orleans 21, Atlanta 6.
Some things speak for themselves.
From Radio Shack's world of the TRS-80 comes the Model 3 business computer. Let it increase your manager's productivity, so when you need that report...
Tomorrow by 9.
You'll get it. Because the TRS-80 provides instant information access, simplifies planning and projections, prepares error-free documents. It is the professional, affordable management tool. The TRS-80 Model 3 from 1849, only from Radio Shack, the computer experts.
Next Saturday and Sunday on CBS Sports, postseason action as they battle for the NFC crown and a spot in the Super Bowl. Great regional action next weekend on CBS Sports.
No bags on their head now. They haven't had bags for the 2 years that Bum Phillips has been building respectability here in New Orleans. The Falcons had won 5 in a row and 9 of the last 10. In fact, the last New Orleans Saints win was way back in 1979. This series, Atlanta leads 20-7. Wide receivers, left and right, slot formation to the left side. Kenny Stabler with a 15-point lead will work on the clock. Jack Holmes bucks over the right side, across the 40, near the 42. Approaching first down yardage, a pickup of 7. It'll bring up 2nd down and 3. And one of the chants that went up was playoffs. When we were away, they posted that Green Bay score against Detroit, 24-20. So the fans very much aware of what it takes for the Saints to get into the playoffs.
Of course, that Detroit loss and the San Francisco loss, a win here, and they're in the playoffs. So it's not, they're not out yet. Watching that scoreboard.
From the 42, slot formation to the left side. Wayne Wilson slithers forward and appears to have a first down for the Saints. Good blocking on the left side. That's Brad Edelman, 63, the outstanding young rookie out of Missouri. John Hill, the 11-year veteran center out of Lehigh. First down for New Orleans.
Jim, we talk a lot about the playoffs, and well, we should. The New Orleans Saints not out of it yet. A lot of people interested, but even if they don't make the playoffs and they do beat Atlanta, that's one albatross gone. It's also a feeling that they can beat a playoff team, and they're looking to next year or the year after to be a true contender.
Duckett and Maudie in the slot formation to the left side. Lindsey Scott to the top of your screen. Holmes bowls his way near the 50-yard line. Gaijan. You see Kenny Stabler looking up at the clock here at the Superdome, working on it, the veteran, 9:44 and counting.
Sometimes you forget just how good Kenny Stabler was. 5 championships between 73 and 77 with the Oakland Raiders. That Super Bowl win, Oakland 32 over the Vikes, who only had 14 in Super Bowl 9. And he's having a great afternoon. 240 yards, great completion percentage.
Bum Phillips didn't forget how good he was.
Yes.
Pitch back to Wayne Wilson. Atlanta's defense swarming, chops him down shy of the 50-yard line, and it'll bring up a 3rd down situation.
You know, Jim, you talk about Bum Phillips and Kenny Stabler. You know, sometimes when you don't have something, like an NFL career, when you see it coming to an end, we saw the feature at halftime. All those guys leaving, it's tough to leave. But sometimes when you do, and Bum Phillips talked about this, Kenny Stabler, when no one picked him up when he was cut by Houston, all of a sudden realized he was out in the cold, and he actually did like football. He still had something left. Bum Phillips gave him a chance, and he's responded for the Saints.
Bum Phillips in his 8th year in the National Football League as the head coach, 6 years for the Oilers, 3 times in the playoffs, and 2 AFC championship games. Stabler needs 6. Looks for the tight end. Got him. 1st down, Saints. Larry Hardy inside the 20-yard line. Coughed up the football, but not before the play was whistled dead. And watch the blocking of Hokie Gajan.
And watch the flick of the wrist, and a great adjustment, throws it away from the defender. Hardy, the 2nd-string tight end, Brenner's hurt, makes a good reception, picks up some extra yards running the ball.
Hardy ran right away from Glazebrook. A little mismatch there in the tonnage department. Bob is 200 pounds, and Hardy is 240 pounds. Slot formation to the right side. Stabler has the Saints on the drive again. 7:50 left to go in this football game. Wayne Wilson sandwiched down before he got back to the line of scrimmage. Al Richardson having a great game for the Falcons.
And you have to wonder about the Falcons as Kenny checks the clock. 7:35 left in this game. Seems to be under control for the Saints, winning 21-6. But the Atlanta Falcons have a problem. They're in the playoffs next week. What are they going to be? Are they going to be the team that won 3 in a row, that was so hot, that shut down a San Francisco, that had a Joe Montana wondering, and has Lehman Bennett wondering which kind of a team are they? A good playoff team or just an average team that may fold up any weekend?
At the top of your screen, Marty and Duckett in a slot formation. Wayne Wilson against the grain, cuts it back inside the 20. Joe L. Williams on the tackle.
You know, some interesting possibilities. We talk about the home field advantage, Jim, for Atlanta. Now, if Atlanta loses today and Minnesota loses, then Atlanta will be at home versus St. Louis. If Atlanta loses today and Minnesota wins tomorrow night against Dallas, I believe that game is at the Metrodome. They fixed the hole in the roof. Atlanta goes to Minnesota.
Marty to the top of the screen, wide right. Kenny Duckett, Lindsey Scott in a slot. Sweep to Wayne Wilson. Touchdown, New Orleans. Look at the reaction of the Saints. Most of them out there congratulating Wayne Wilson, but a few of the defensive players recognizing the value of Kenny Stabler out there to congratulate Kenny for his play calling. There he is. He looks a little bit like Willie Nelson.
And this is just good blocking and running by Wayne Wilson, the 4th-year man out of Little Shepherd College. Makes a good cut, turns on some speed. You sure that isn't George Rogers in another uniform? I mean, I know he doesn't have 38 on, but boy, what a nice run by Wayne Wilson for his touchdown.
2nd touchdown for Wilson of the afternoon. Morton Anderson is perfect, and the Saints come marching home again. 6:20 to go in this football game. Another look from behind the New Orleans Saints offense as Wayne Wilson gets a big block there from number 78, Kelvin Clark, and then sweeps to the right side and punches it on in. The Saints 28, the Falcons 6. Saints hoping for a Green Bay win and a Los Angeles rebound.
A cold weather warning from America's most trusted antifreeze. Your car is an expensive investment. Improper maintenance during freezing sub-zero weather can cause serious damage. Be sure to check your antifreeze now. If it's weak, you're taking a real chance. Put in Prestone 2. The Prestone patented formula locks out winter freeze-ups. Get Prestone now. Save $2 by mail and relax. No wonder we're #1.
so nice. B-U-D-T, B-U-D-T.
Jim Kelly, John Dockery back at the Superdome here in New Orleans. The Saints on top. Wayne Wilson, he's having some kind of a career this afternoon. That's what he's done on the ground. And in the air, 11 receptions for 89 yards. He scored 2 touchdowns. Number 30, Wayne Wilson. Reggie Brown, 7, now 8 yards deep. And the Superdome is on fire. They are just electrified here this afternoon. It's been a long time, going way back to 1979, since the Saints have beaten the Falcons. There's the scoring drive, capped off by Wilson's 17-yard scamper around the right side.
Kenny Stabler, a masterful game, calling most of his plays. Unlike most, as you will see, a new quarterback, Bartkowski. They're going to save him for the playoffs. Obviously, Lehman Bennett feels the game is out of hand, so it's Mike Morawski, the 4th-year man out of Cal Davis.
And a rookie in there at the other wide receiver spot, Stacey Bailey, number 82. Morawski comes in, 8 completions in 10 attempts for 61 yards. 1 touchdown, no interception. He's been sacked twice. He'll go to work right away, trailing by a bunch. Got it. That's Stacey Bailey, the rookie out of San Jose. Coughs it up, and the Saints have got the football. Dennis Winston. Like they say on the playgrounds, Dennis, in your face.
His nickname at Pittsburgh, you might remember, number 56, his nickname was Dirt. Some people called him a dirty player. Here, Stacey Bailey makes the move to the outside. A nice catch on his fingertips. Takes off with the ball. But here he coughs it up. And Winston comes up with the recovery for the Saints. They have a good opportunity again. We'll be back.
This bud's for everyone who's ready for the action when the whistle blows.
Yeah, just for you. That distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do.
This bud's for you.
Okay, cross-X right on 2. In a ball game, I don't care how much I sweat. The more I sweat, the meaner I feel. Ooh. But off the field, I want to feel nice and dry. And I want to smell nice. That's why I use Speed Stick Super Dry Antiperspirant.
Speed Stick's the wide stick. Gives me effective protection in just a few strokes. Helps fight wetness and odor all day.
Get the wide stick for protection. Speed Stick Super Dry Antiperspirant by Menon.
January 15th on CBS Sports, Heisman runner-up John Elway, coached by his father, against Illinois' Tony Eason in the East-West Shrine Game here on CBS Sports.
In just 2 weeks, the 58th annual East-West Shrine Game. 2 of college football's best quarterbacks are scheduled to compete in this classic. Stanford's John Elway, Illinois' Tony Eason. Also in the running back department, North Carolina's Kelvin Bryant and Stanford's Vincent White are scheduled to be here. So you be here too. Saturday, January the 15th at 3:45 Eastern Time. The East-West Shrine Game on CBS Sports.
We talk about John Elway, maybe the best to come out of college since the Burt Jones, the Joe Namath. It's amazing. Bartkowski told me he thought Elway threw just about every ball perfectly. What a franchise he is. John Elway.
Stabler to Wayne Wilson, who slithers forward near the 37-yard line, picks up 1, brings up 2nd down and 9. You know, back on September the 9th in '79, when the Saints were playing at Green Bay, they had 29 first downs. They have 29 here this afternoon against the Falcons, tying their record for most in a games thus far. If they pick up 1 more, they will break it.
It's been a good afternoon. Interesting when we talked to Bum Phillips, what do you need to be a real playoff contender? We talked about a tight end, maybe another running back to go with Rodgers, and maybe a defensive back. And this New Orleans Saints is they're on their way.
Wayne Wilson again to the 35-yard line. Falcons defense not backing down at all. Still hitting with the same intensity they began the game. You see Stabler glancing at the sideline, looking up at that clock again. Looks like he might be running out of gas a little bit.
I wonder why.
Inside of 5 when this next play is snapped. These are all finals around the NFL today. The Redskins securing home advantage as far as they go. Eagles are eliminated. Giants still have a slim hope of getting into the playoffs. The Bears are out. The Bucs are in. In the fourth quarter, San Francisco leading the Rams. The Rams must beat San Francisco for the Saints to have a chance. Guy John. First down for the New Orleans Saints at the 26-yard line. A new record as far as first downs are concerned. Tom Pridemore made the tackle secure.
And you hear the fans in the background, something to cheer about. 1980, they were 1-15. That's how they got George Rogers. Last year, Bum Phillips got them to 4-12. Still not a great finish. This year, they're going to be 4-5. That's as many wins as they've had in the last few years. Jim 8-8 in 1979, 7-9 in 1978.
As many wins this year in a 9-game season as last year in a full season. First down for the Saints at the 26-yard line of the Atlanta Falcons. Guy John at the 20-yard line. Pridemore again on the hit. They are still hitting with a lot of intensity down there in that gridiron. The New Orleans fans are reacting. Green Bay on top over Detroit by 4, and that of course is one of the reasons the Saint fans are so electrified here. A Lions loss coupled with a San Francisco loss coupled with the New Orleans win here today against Atlanta puts the Saints into the playoffs. Guy John, 10 carries for 58 yards. Wayne Wilson, the workhorse, around the right side. First and goal, New Orleans. Pridemore wrestled him out of bounds.
What an afternoon Wayne Wilson is having. Look at the fans. They're delighted in this game. I mean, it's 28-6, Saints on top. Wayne Wilson having an afternoon. Not bad for a guy. As you look at the, oh, look at this. New club record for the Saints.
That's the first down record we told you about before. 11 more yards added to Wayne Wilson's total. You know, if the Saints get another touchdown, it'll make the score 35-6. They lost 35-0 at Fulton County Stadium. I guess you'd call it a tie this year, wouldn't you?
Call it revenge. And it's the old axiom, tough to beat a team twice in the same year. I'm surprised. I thought Atlanta would play better today after their big loss to Green Bay last week.
Inside handoff. Pokey Guyjon bowls for 5 more. A 10th round draft pick back in '81. Jim Laughlin in there in the tackle, a 3rd round linebacker out of Ohio State.
Jim, we talked about this an awful lot before the game. I felt that Atlanta would rebound, have a good afternoon. You said to me that if Kenny Stabler was in the game at the end of this game, that the Saints would win. He's still in there. You were right.
Kelvin Clark, 78, throwing a big block over on the left side, along with John Hill, the 11-year center out of Lehigh. Kenny Stabler sets them down on 2nd down. Blitz is coming. Wayne Wilson inside the 5, fights to about the 3.5. Fulton Kuykendall in there on the hit defensively, number 54, 8 years out of UCLA. A couple of other scores to update you on. A 1-yard touchdown run by Chuck Muncie as we approach the 2-minute warning, and the Chargers, after trailing the Raiders 20-10, have come back to take a 27-20 lead at Jack Murphy Stadium out in San Diego. And Denver has gotten a field goal. They trail, or now they lead Seattle by a score of 9-6. We're at the 2-minute warning at the Superdome. These Saint fans are enjoying every moment of it. The New Orleans Saints have led the whole way. The Falcons have a field goal in the first half, a field goal in the second half. The Saints have 4 touchdowns and driving for number 5.
I'm a firefighter. You get greasy, grimy. I'm shampooing 2-3 times a day. I'm kind of worried about that. I have to have a shampoo that's gentle. So I use my daughter's Johnson's baby shampoo. There's a big difference.
No other shampoo has Johnson's unique formula. It combines thorough cleaning with extra gentleness.
Johnson's gets my hair very clean in a very gentle way. It even makes my hair feel better. And Johnson's is gentle enough to use every day. The proof's right here.
Four-wheel drive isn't the only great thing about this Toyota. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Introducing the new four-wheel drive Toyota Tercel wagon. Inside, it's enormous. It switches from front wheel to four-wheel drive on command and gives you the best gas mileage of any four-wheel drive car. The Toyota Tercel, a new standard in four-wheel drive. But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Jim Kelly, John Dockery back with you at the Superdome here in New Orleans. There's our score, our time remaining. It's 3rd down and 4 for the Saints. And New Orleans enjoying a 28-6 lead over the Falcons, who, John, have got to be concerned because they managed just 7 points against Green Bay a week ago, just 2 field goals here against New Orleans, and they're on the verge of going into the playoffs against either the Minnesota Vikings or the St. Louis Cardinals.
And that's a team, the Atlanta Falcons, have been averaging 23 points a game, so you'd have to say their offense is in a slump. So is their defense.
From the 4-yard line, Ken Stabler. They go with a double tight end alignment. Larry Hardy and Rich Baudy. That's in motion, number 46, Hokie Guyjon. Wayne Wilson, touchdown! You don't think he'll get a game ball, do you? Big hole on the right side. Stan Brock, 67. Kelvin Clark, 78, opened it up. 4 yards. They went 38 yards in 8 plays. You look at ground level.
He might get 3 game balls for his 3 touchdowns. He must be hanging around George Rogers or something. What an afternoon for this young man. Not bad for a man who made this team as a special teams player in 1979. What an afternoon. Watch the blocking up front. Power blocking. Guyjon with a good block. Wayne Wilson takes it in. Puts the Saints on top 34-6.
Guido Merkins, number 19, will spot it down at the 10. Morton Anderson has been perfect. He's got number 5. Guido Merkins might have lost his backup quarterback role, though, to Russell Ertzleben. Ertzleben earlier threw one 39 yards to Bill Hurley. There's your score. So right now the Saints are just hoping that the Rams can come back against the San Francisco 49ers. And, of course, hoping that the Packers hang on against the Detroit Lions. The top 8 teams in the AFC, the top 8 teams in the NFC in the playoffs, the Super Bowl tournament, it all starts next week. Check your local listings for our 2 games on Saturday, our 2 games on Sunday, right here on CBS Sports. 1 playoff spot is all that remains.
And the Saints come marching in, and they certainly marched in today to the Superdome.
Yeah, it was funny, in talking with Bum Phillips of the Saints, that first game between Atlanta and New Orleans, it was windy at Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta. It was about 30 degrees. And he was asked if the weather affected his team when they lost 35-0. He said the only elements that affected us were the 11 elements that were wearing the red Atlanta Falcon jerseys.
Al Richardson down on the ground, helping him up, 3rd-year man out of Georgia Tech. Again, what the Falcons are worried about now that this game is out of hand is injuries to their key players. Richardson, a cog in their defensive scheme. You know, in fairness to them, Buddy Curry was out early with ligaments, will probably miss the playoffs. Richardson appears to be all right. The other fine linebacker, number 50, Curry, has been gone for most of the game. He'll have an effect on the Atlanta Falcon defense as they go into the playoffs.
You know, it was very interesting in talking with defensive coordinator Jerry Glanville last night. When we said, what was your approach to this game? He said, well, we threatened to show them the films of the Green Bay Packers, but the players came to us and said, no, coach, you made your point. We don't have to look at the film. And they said, well, okay, point to the guy that you felt cost us the football game, anticipating that maybe they might point, for instance, to a Kenny Johnson who was beaten twice by James Lofton. Each member of the Atlanta Falcons pointed to themselves, and that's what Coach Glanville wanted to see, the fact that they blamed only themselves. So he didn't make them sit through the film. They sure don't want to look at the films of this game.
But they're going to have to look at something. He's going to have to lose some motivation because this team is flat as they go into the playoffs. Let's take a look at the standings as we go. Get ready.
Based on today's scores, Washington 28-0 over St. Louis. Redskins securing home field as far as they can go. Cowboys up at the Metrodome in Minnesota tomorrow against the Vikings. Packers are leading Detroit right now by 4 points. Atlanta will drop down, if this score holds up, to 5-4. St. Louis is already 5-4. The Vikings are 4-4.
Ahead, 99 defense.
Tampa Bay is in with that 5-4 record. They beat the Bears this afternoon. A 33-yard field goal by Bill Capice in overtime. The Bears are out. The Giants have a slim chance. And New Orleans, of course, will join the group at 4-5. And if the Packers score holds up, they've got to hope like crazy that the Rams come back and beat San Francisco. Then they're in the playoffs. 1st and 10. Morosky passing over in the right flat to Bo Robinson, belted out of bounds near the 46-yard line.
And of course, Atlanta, when you look at their home field, they have to hope that Minnesota loses tomorrow night, that would put Atlanta at home versus St. Louis. If Minnesota wins tomorrow night, Atlanta goes to Minnesota to play. Of course, when you think about it, Jim, Atlanta is 3-0 on the road before today. They'll go to 3-1, so they're used to playing on the road and doing well on the road. At home, they were just 2-3. So who knows how much the home field advantage will mean to the Atlanta Falcons, if they should get it.
His arm was in motion. Ken Bordelin, 7-year linebacker out of LSU. Detroit has come back now against the Green Bay Packers. They are late in the fourth quarter. The Green Bay Packers trailing by a field goal. We'll try to check and see how much time is left to go in that game. A 1-yard run by Rob Rubik with 5:47 left to go. So the Packers trailing by a field goal still have a chance to come back. A sack at the 36-yard line by Reggie Lewis, the rookie out of San Diego State, 6'2", 248, Reggie Lewis.
Of course, Detroit is leading in that game with about 5 minutes left. And though it looks bad for the New Orleans Saints at the moment because Detroit is beating Green Bay and San Francisco is beating Los Angeles, still, you can't take anything away from this victory. They're building confidence. They're building a foundation for the future.
Up top, incomplete at the 28-yard line and almost intercepted by Bill Hurley out of Syracuse, the free agent who's got the touchdown toss from Russell Erxleben. Don't forget, following NFL action on CBS, it all starts with 60 Minutes, except on the West Coast. A great lineup tonight. The Jeffersons, Archie Bunker's Place, Gloria, Trapper John M.D. And one day at a time, that's right. George Roberts will punt it away. Jeff Groth, number 86, is back deep for the Saints. They've got 1:09 left to go. They will have won their first game in 6 outings. New Orleans had lost 5 in a row to the Atlanta Falcons, 9 of their last 10. Falcons lead this series 20-7. Low snap, and he gets it away and a pretty good kick. Maudie wisely calls for the fair catch. It'll be 1st and 10 at the 25-yard line. Some of the men behind the scenes, NFL football on CBS. Our executive producer is Terry O'Neill. The senior producer, Charles H. Milton III. Today's game produced by Ed Gorin and directed by Bob Daly. Bill Brown, our associate director, and our broadcast associate, John Conner. And the rest of the folks who bring you the sights and sounds of NFL football on CBS. 1st and 10 for New Orleans. 35. Falcons 6. 1:03 to go. We talked about the fact that the Falcons, or excuse me, that the Saints will go to 4-5 in a 9-game season. They only had 4 wins in a 16-game season last year, so you can see what Bum Phillips has done. He has brought unity. He's had a good draft. He's brought some youthful players, some enthusiasm, and he's brought Kenny Stabler, number 16, the veteran, who is not in there now. Here he is, Guido Merkins, and listen to the applause for Kenny Stabler.
Many folks have written the obituary for Kenny Stabler. He was hurt. He told Bum Phillips, I want to play today. And he did play, and what a game he's had. He wants to come back next year, maybe the year after. He hopes to be part of all of this when the New Orleans Saints finally become a playoff team.
24 of 35. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Not too bad at age 37. Rejuvenated Ken Stabler. As we talked with the Saints, we've touched on it several times throughout the telecast, but there's a gleam in his eye. This man wants to play football, and Bum Phillips even said he's surprised. He thinks that Ken Stabler might have found out that he now needs football. Before, football needed Kenny Stabler. It's been a dramatic turnaround.
What a nice afternoon for Kenny Stabler. 37 years old, 13-year veteran.
The Los Angeles Rams have taken a 1-point lead over the San Francisco 49ers. If that holds up, and if the Green Bay Packers can come back trailing by a field goal, these New Orleans Saints are suddenly right in the playoff picture. We will be going to that San Francisco 49er Los Angeles Ram game in just a second. Time has expired here at the Superdome in New Orleans. The Saints have avenged that 35-0 loss up at Fulton County Stadium with a 35-6 whitewashing of the Falcons here this afternoon. It has really been two men that has carried the Saints this afternoon. Kenny Stabler, we have told you about, and Wayne Wilson, 3 touchdowns, a remarkable performance.
And Atlanta, when you look at 2 straight losses, they're now 5-4. The New Orleans Saints 4-5. We're getting ready to go to a great game, Jim. What an afternoon for Kenny Stabler.
Keep in mind now, with Atlanta losing, if Minnesota wins tomorrow night, Atlanta, who had already clinched a playoff spot, their 3rd, by the way, in 5 years, the Falcons would be on the road in Minnesota. After the Atlanta loss today, if Minnesota would lose tomorrow to the Cowboys, Atlanta would be at home against the St. Louis Cardinals. So right now, the Saints will be watching the scoreboard, hoping the Rams can hang on against the 49ers. They lead by 1, hoping the Packers can come back against Detroit. Now for John Dockery, Jim Kelly saying so long from the Superdome. The final score, the Saints 35, Falcons 6.